Yeah, as Russell said, we're off. We go on Thursday. And so shall I pray to finish? And then we'll just have a cup of coffee and like kids ministry can stay and we'll just hang. No. Yeah, we would value your prayers while we're away. We're up there for 3.5 weeks. My parents up in Darwin, and some of our story is my mum was she's a vicar, Anglican, and so she's been working up there for 5, 6, 7, 8 years now. She's retired, and now they're just hanging out there, and we're going to go because when I wake up in the morning up there, I don't have to put on a jumper. I can jump in the pool. Praise God. So looking forward to that. And if you would like an update, the Punches give you like a trip around Europe in like every single way. And I just can't wait to sit and start texting them photos and be like, hey, look, I'm here now, and I think it's raining in Maitland. And, just thought you'd want to know that. And so if you'd like to be on that mailing list, happy to send that to you. But we're going to finish off our... Sorry, no, we're not going to finish. I'm going to finish my bit in the series. Cam's going to come and preach one in this series because of Amy's commissioning service. We've got one that's a little out of order, but that's okay because it's all out of order really anyway. But even as Russell shared about the heart, this is what we're talking about there. For a Hebrew-minded person, the heart is like the driving force. It's everything comes out of the heart. It's why Jesus talks so much about the heart. It's why we need to talk so much about the heart, because our heart is pretty... What's the word? I've got like flittering, but that's not quite the right word. It's so like, my heart one day wants the Lord, and then an hour later in the very same day wants what I want. Fickle. Our hearts are fickle. It's worth us thinking about them for a bit. And so I hope that this series has been a blessing to you. It's been a blessing to me. And I want to end with a message that I'm going to try and pull lots of things together, and then Cam can unpull some things next week and finish them off again. And we're going to start with this book. This is Gary Chapman's book, The 5 Love Languages. If you were a Christian in the 90s, you probably read this book, right? This went before viral was a thing. This was it. Like, if you don't know this book, you're probably not haven't gone to some sort of marriage course, because they still do them, where they sit there and go, we all love in different ways, which is to say we all give love in one way, and we all receive love in one way, and we all want to give love in one way and want to receive love in one way. And what we need to do as couples is make sure that the way that I'm showing you love is the way that you want to be loved, and the way that you show love is the way that I receive love. And he names 5 different love languages: the words of affirmation, which is when you say nice things about someone, gifts, quality time, and like not just hanging out, but like actually hanging out, physical touch, and acts of service. And these are ways that you can, in a relationship, show that you love one another. And I suspect at some point you've probably done this, and you have an idea of what your love language is. And you could do that from reading this book, or even just sitting there and be like, actually, there was a test. There was a test, wasn't there? I think there was a test at the back of the book that you could go and do. As I read God's book, he's got a different love language. And his love language is obedience. All the time, all the way through the scriptures, he is calling his people to trust him and to follow his commands, to trust that what he commands is going to lead to life. That what he restricts is for your own good, and the path that he sets you on is for your benefit and for the people's benefit around you. And off the back of that, then, he says, trust me and do it. And there's this really interesting verse in Hebrews 5, and we don't have time to go through all this, but I just want to pull out 3 really quick things from this to say, here we get right in the middle, son though he was, that was Jesus, he learned obedience through what he suffered. And even just looking at that very quickly, there's 3 really quick implications from that. First, that Jesus needed to learn obedience. And I don't know what that means for your Christology, which is like your study and your knowledge of Jesus and what he did, but it's worth a thought about that Jesus needed to learn something, and that which he needed to learn was obedience. Second thing is, if I'm going to be like Jesus, and Jesus had to learn obedience, I have to learn obedience. Yes? And then the third part of that is if Jesus learned obedience and I have to learn obedience, the way that he learned obedience wasn't in one moment of like snap, wow, revelation, and now I'm obedient. It's a daily entering into wrestle and struggle with this thing that we call obedience. It is a learned process. And so what I want to do this afternoon is look at one of the earliest characters who the authors of both Old and the New Testament really consistently look back as one who was obedient and one who was faithful, and that person is the story of Abraham. Capture the story really quickly. Abraham comes right. Oh, actually, let's do our little Genesis thing. It's helpful to do. God creates the world. How good. You live here. Off the back of that, we get the fruit. Take the fruit. Disaster. Cain and Abel. Worst disaster. Disaster spreads and spreads and spreads and spreads to the point where the whole earth is filled not with goodness and righteousness and people, but with violence. And so God does the flood thing and pulls him back in. And it's like, great, here we go, start again. And now Noah takes the fruit again at the end of his little thing. And we have a whole disaster come out of that. And then disaster upon disaster upon disaster. And then we get the Tower of Babel. And then God goes, right, this isn't working. I need to find a different way. And there's different ways through this guy called Abraham, which he knew at the start. Like, it wasn't like he was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that didn't work. This was always the plan. And Abraham comes on the scene, and he says in Genesis 12, go from your country, go from your people, leave everything and everyone you know, and get yourself to this land that I'm going to show you. And then he gives him this amazing promise. It'll make you into a great nation, and it'll bless you. And everything that they were trying to do in the Tower of Babel, which was to make their name great, they said, let's make a name for ourselves. We'll have the tallest tower in the world. And God says, I'm going to do that for you. Don't go and build the tower. Just come and listen to me. And as you do that, I will bless you, and you will bless those around you. We've talked about this quite a lot. And Abraham is wonderful in that he does this kind of. And that's like the story of Abraham in a nutshell. He does this kind of. Abraham does go to the land that God has shown you. God says, leave everything and everyone you know. And Abraham says, okay. And he goes with his nephew Lot. And he's supposed to go, no. Go from your country and your people and your father. Like, leave all of that. And Abraham says, yeah, I've left them. I've done it. Oh, good. Tick the box. Great. I'm just taking Lot with me. I hope that's okay. And this is what Abraham does time and time again through his story. He heads into Egypt, and he's really faithful. He's going to trust that God is going to provide for him there. But when he gets there, he says, oh, Sarah, quickly pretend that you're not my wife, because they're going to see you, and they're going to think that you're really hot, and they're going to take you, and then they're going to kill me. And so to help me, we're just going to pretend that you're my sister, and that's all going to go well, and like, how good. And it's like, no, Abraham, you got to trust. And it all goes terribly wrong for the Pharaoh. And then 2 chapters later, they got to go back to Egypt. And Abraham turns to Sarah and goes, Sarah, I got this great plan. If you're my wife, they're going to kill me. And so what we're going to do is we're going to pretend. And you're like, Abraham, we just did this story. Like, we just did it. Like, what are you doing? But this is Abraham's story. Time and time and time again, he's obedient to the Lord. He just adds one extra thing. Eventually, this promise becomes that he'll make you a great nation, comes into the promise of a son. And Abraham is old at this point. And so he looks at it and goes, well, Sarah's old and I'm old. And so God, he's given me this promise, and I can't let God not follow through on his promise. So I know what I'll do. I'll just help him out a bit. I'll go and he takes his not Hebrew slave. Where's she from? Takes Hagar, who I can't remember. She's Egyptian. I think she's Egyptian. Wherever she's from, it's not the important part here. He takes her and he impregnates her, and it's a disaster. And Ishmael, the son that's born there, and Isaac, his son, just fight for the rest of their days and their generations. Fight and fight and fight and fight and fight. And eventually, God calls him and says, eventually Abraham has a son. It takes 25 years. From the moment that God promises you will have a son, 25 years passes before he has a son. That's 25 years of sitting there questioning, God, did you actually say that? 25 years of, God, how are you going to do this? 25 years of, did I hear that wrong? 25 years of, have you forgotten that promise? And then finally, a son is born. And in the very next chapter, God says, I want you to give him back to me. I want you to give him back to me. In fact, I want you to give up on the idea of him. You have done your life, your things, your way, now no longer. Will you do it my way, or will you not? And so this afternoon, what I want to do, as we talk about obedience, is I want to give you 4 really clear and hopefully fairly short, really biblical reasons why you should not be obedient. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. I've got 4 of them lined up. They're going to make they're going to be really great. You're going to walk away being like, yes, okay, this is going to be great. You ready? I'm ready. Here you go. First reason why you shouldn't be obedient. You think I'm joking. I'm not joking. God sounds crazy, and he asks people to do crazy things all the time. All the time. Shall we name some? We did Hosea last year. Do you remember doing Hosea? Oh, yeah, Hosea. This is the Lord speaking to you. How are you, Hosea? I'm well. How are you? Got a little job for you to do. Excellent. What's the job? I need you to go and get married. Awesome. Always wanted to get married. Do you remember the let's call her the woman. Well, let's just call her the woman, shall we, for now? Thank you, Cam. We know that story, right? And it's like, man, that is not what you should do. Hey, Noah. We talked about Noah already. You live in the desert, don't you? Yes, I do. Got a little job for you. Can you go and build a boat for me? In the desert, Lord? Yes, I would like you to build a boat, and I want it to be big enough that I can fit 2 every living creature on earth, and I'd like you to do that today, if you don't mind. Okay, all right. Let's keep. I wrote some down to help me. Isaiah's a favorite one of mine. He had a special message. God said, Isaiah, I've got a special message for my people. And Isaiah must have felt like, oh wow, this is going to be amazing. It's a word for my people. Here you go. And God says, and he said, Isaiah says, what's the word? And God says, actually, I don't need you to say anything. That's all good. I just need you to take your clothes off for 3 years. So did you say clothes off? Yes, I said, it's in Isaiah 20, you can read it. And he said, just take all your clothes off for 3 years and just walk around as if that's fine. If you could just do that for me, that would be tops. God sounds crazy, and he asks people to do crazy things all the time. Ezekiel, we did him in Classroom, didn't we? Classroom, and we're hanging out with Ezekiel, and God says, Ezekiel, I need you to lie down on your side, on your right-hand side if you don't mind. If you do that for 390 days, that would be tops. And then Ezekiel must have gone, oh, yeah, okay, 300. Are you sure, Lord? He said, is there anything else you want me to do? That's a good point. Once you finish lying on that side, I want you to roll over and lie on the other side for 40 days. That's your job for me, and if you could do that, that would be really tops. This is what God does all the time. One of our favorite stories, Joshua, right? Hey, Joshua, I need you to go and take the city of Jericho. Awesome, I'm on board. Here we go. Soldiers, go get your shields and your swords. Off we go. We're going to war. And God says, oh, sorry, again, little miscommunication. Pop those swords away. If you could grab that trumpet out, you're going to really need that for the next 7 days, right? God asks people to do crazy things all the time. Reason number 2. There is a cost involved in obedience. There is a cost involved in obedience. Even the story of Abraham, let's look at that. Leave everything that you've known, every person, everything that you've known, any sort of semblance of safety. You are now walking into the middle of nowhere where you have no map, no guidance, no trust that there's going to be provision where you're going to get there. And you are going to say goodbye to these people, and you will never, ever, ever see them again. You're not even going to get a Facebook post from them because there wasn't Facebook if you didn't. That was a joke. That's fine. No, it's fine. There's a cost involved in that. Noah, when I ask you to build the boat, that is building a boat is a whole bunch of resources. There's going to be time that's put into that. There's energy that's going to be put into that. And then he is going to look like an absolute muppet in front of all of his friends, family, and everyone who knows him. Isaiah is going to lose every shred of dignity that he's got. Walking around naked in that culture was abhorrent. It was the worst thing anyone could possibly ask you to do. And he has got to do it for 3 years. The embarrassment and the shame that must have come on him over those first few days must have been unbearable. Ezekiel, when he lies down his arm, when you lie down in your arm and don't move it for 390 days, the muscles atrophy. which means they stop working, which means they start eating away, which means when you get up after 390 days, your arm doesn't work anymore. There is a cost that is involved in obedience. Jesus consistently put sacrifice right at the heart of his preaching ministry. You need to take up your cross. If you're going to follow me, you have to lay down everything. He praises the actions of the Samaritan. We don't need, like the Samaritan who found the Israelite lying by the side of the road. He says that he who went to his enemy and fed and clothed him and gave him out of his own provisions and looked after him, that's what I want you to look at. And then a few chapters later, he goes and finds a young rich ruler and it says, I need you to sell absolutely everything you have and give it away to the poor. That's how you're going to find your way into my kingdom. Obedience, it involves sacrifice. The result of Jesus' ministry was 10 out of 11 of his disciples were martyred for their faith. The last was exiled after being poured into a vat of boiling oil. We've talked about this. Like, obedience comes with sacrifice. It comes with a cost. And often, it's really, really hard to see if there's any upside at all. When God first tells Abraham, I need you to go, he gives him this promise. I'm going to bless you. I'm going to be with you. Those who curse you, I'm going to curse. I'm going to defend you. I'm going to go with you. Like this wonderful moment of God being like, hey, Abraham, this is who I am. And I need you to trust me. And so I'm going to show you. I'm going to give you this promise. And as you walk in it, you're going to see this promise become more and more true in your life. And this way, you're going to be able to respond to me better. You're going to be able to listen to me better. We're going to have this great partnership. By the time we get to the end of it, he just says, do I have it? I don't have it. We'll get it. Yeah, it's here. He just says, take your son and sacrifice him. There's no promise. There's no word of, hey, it's all going to be okay, by the way. There's no, as we all know, the story ends with the ram caught. There's no like, hey, Abraham, I'm just doing a test for you. Just go along with this. It's going to be great. You're going to love this story. It's just go and do what I've asked you to do. Go and do what I've asked you to do, and I just want you to, just because I've told you to do it, that's what I need you to do. And sometimes it is really, really, really hard to see what God is doing in the middle of it. He just says, I need you to do this. The fourth reason why you shouldn't be obedient, sometimes it all goes wrong. A couple of years ago, no, more than that. Wow, we've been here a couple of years. Man, I'm old. Wow, 6 years ago? I'm looking at you. 2020, I reckon it was COVID years. We applied for a church. We felt God's call. We felt him go, I need you to go, step out. It's time for a change in scenery, time for a change in ministry. Step out. There was a church nearby to us, and we just had this sense of, yes, go and apply there. And so we did. We walked this process for... This is while in the middle of M's broken leg and everything else. No, 2020? Must have been. Yeah. Navigating that space, trying to do interviews online and all the rest of it. And this time took about 3.5 months. 3.5 months where we're wrestling in prayer. And every time we take another step, though, we just get this sense of peace of, yes, actually, this is right. This is right. This is going good. And so we keep taking another step. Praying through it all, going, yes, God, really feeling you in this. And then I got a call one day where they said, hey, look, by the way, you were one of 2 candidates, and we really, really like you, and we flipped a coin, and we think the other guy got it. And for 6 months, I sat as an associate pastor of a church wrestling with the question of, can I actually hear God, or is it all just in my head? 6 months. We were convinced. We were sure. This is what God wants us to do. We're stepping out in faith. We're going to do this, and we're excited to see. And already the expectation is building up of God. Wow, this is so exciting, this opportunity, and everything's falling into place. And then it's not you. We sat on Wednesday night, and as we prayed, undistracted, and I was reminded of just how many open and unanswered questions I have in this life, of things where I sit there and go, God, why did you do it that way? just don't know what you were trying to teach me in that moment. I don't get it. And those questions drive you either towards God or they drive you away from him. For pretty good reasons, I think. Back in Genesis 22, it takes Abraham a lifetime to learn this lesson of obedience. In fact, this is one of his last recorded stories. It's also almost certainly his greatest moment of faith. And it's the moment where he finally submits, despite these, my four, I would argue, very sensible and very logical reasons why he shouldn't do it. He still submits and says, God, what you want, I will do. And whilst we know child sacrifice is abhorrent to our God. It's one of the most harshly condemned acts that he gives in all of the Bible. He will not stand for it. But this practice, it's not common, but it's certainly not unheard of in the ancient Near East at this time. Abraham does not know what God is trying to do there. And the only hint that we've got that maybe he's got some inkling is he talks to Isaac, and Isaac's like, but where's the lamb? What we've got the wood and we've got the kindling for the fire, but where's the sacrifice? And Abraham turns to him and said, don't worry, God's going to provide what we need. It's the only hint that we get. Which could absolutely be Abraham going, no, I trust in God and he's going to do the right thing. Or could be him saying, hey, son, I actually just need you to get up this hill because I'm more than 100 years at this point and I can't physically wrestle you to get up there, and so I'm going to lie to you so that you do what I want. And I don't know which one, and I don't think the Bible tells us which one is right. But after 25 years, Abraham stops fighting God and he just listened to him. All along, he's got these ideas, these ways. I'm going to help you out, God. I'm going to sort this out for you. You said this. Okay, well, I'll make sure it happens for you. And as a result, people just consistently get hurt around him. Which brings wonderful questions of how is God going to bring blessing through someone who all he does is hurt the people around him? But here, and this idea, it can't look good to Abraham. In his eyes, this cannot be the way. 25 years I've waited for this son. For my whole life I've held on to this promise. Everything in his story has been about trying to get this blessing that God has given him. And in fact, that's the whole picture of Genesis, is people fighting to try and get hold of God's blessing that he wants to give to them. And finally, here, God asks him, will you surrender everything that you've been holding on to, and every promise that I've given you, and every hope that you've held on to? Will you surrender that to me now? And I will give you myself, or will you hold on? The question, as we've talked about in the past, it's, do you want what I'm going to give you, or do you want me? Do you want what I have given you, or do you want me? It's your choice. That's it. This is the crisis moment. This is the are you in or are you not moment for Abraham. And this is just wonderfully the moment that he finally trusts in God, and he places the wood on top of Isaac's back, and he walks him up a hill. And while and as he gets there, he ties him up, and he's about to do the unthinkable, and God calls out to him and says, Abraham, stop. And he looks up, and there, as we said, there's a ram caught in the thicket. And so Abraham names that place the Lord will provide. That's what the mountain was called. It was called, that's the Lord will provide. And then they started getting the sentence, this saying that says, yes, well, on the mountain of the Lord it will be provided. And you get this little reflection on that. And 2,000 years later, another father put a whole bunch of wood on his son's back, and he walked him up that very same hill, or at least a hill that was next to it. And he walked all the way up that hill, but this time, when he got tied onto that cross, the father didn't say stop, the father said keep going. And this moment of unbelievable obedience, Jesus surrendered his life and saying, I will trust you, God, even in the face of everything that looks wrong and everything that's going to hurt me, and all the pain and suffering and the curse that I'm going to sit under. For all those reasons that we talked about, what if this all goes wrong? It must have been a question that the human Jesus wrestles with. And yet he is obedient, trusting that despite it looking crazy, despite the cost involved, despite the upside being really difficult to see in places, our Lord was obedient anyway. And so as the story of God's people unfolds off the back of Abraham's obedience, they look back and they reflect on what he was. And he's called a great many things, but he's given one title twice, once in the Old Testament and once in the New Testament. And I just think it's the most, as we think about those 4 reasons and every reason why we shouldn't be obedient, these 4, there's one thing that stands against those. There's one offer that stands against those 4. There's one reason why you should be obedient, and it's the title that was given to Abraham, and it was a title given to him in Isaiah 41. Isaiah is split into 2 sections. The first 39 chapters are about Israel. You have walked so far from me. What are you doing? And I'm going to have to bring judgment upon you, and this is what it's going to look like. But in Isaiah 40, it's like the book completely flips, and it's like they're now in exile, and God starts speaking to them and reminding them about who they are and who he is and the promise that he has for them. And at one point, he reflects on Abraham, and he calls him this. He calls him Abraham, my friend. Abraham is given the title, the friend of God. There's 100 other reasons why you shouldn't be obedient to this God. We could sit down and brainstorm. In the end, there's one reason that I think stands above them all, and that is you could be called the friend of God too. As he sits in the upper room, as he looks towards the cross, Jesus takes 4 chapters in John's gospel to teach and sit and share with his disciples. Twice in that bit, where he turns to them and gives them this promise. It's in John 14:15 and then John 15:14, so it's really easy to remember. And both of them say this: you are my friends if you do what I command. Friendship for Jesus is wrapped up in obedience to him. You are my friends, he says to them. Because yes, God sounds crazy, and he might ask you to do something crazy. And yes, obedience, it costs and it hurts sometimes. And yes, there are going to be times when you can't see the upside. And yes, there's going to be times when it all goes wrong and you sit there and you go, did I hear wrong? Did I miss it? Did something? But at the end of the day, those who are obedient are called the friends of God. And sometimes you get to see what God was doing in it all along. Now, 4 years ago, I don't know what I watched for that, but about 4 years ago, we felt the call of God to, hey, try again. I want you to go and look for another church. And so we started reaching out and praying, and we found a church and we applied to, and we got in conversation with them. It was going really well. We're praying with them and going, yes, actually, God, we can feel a sense of what you're doing in here. Not entirely convinced, but we're like, yes, and we're gonna keep taking steps. It feels like we're getting more and more pieces. We go again, okay, let's just. All the while, in the back of your mind is this moment of like this thought of going, am I hearing this or am I making this up? Still pastoring, still an associate pastor. I've done pastoring for 10 years, still with this thing in the back of my head going, yeah, but do you actually hear God or do you just make it up in your head? Then one day out of the blue, I went to a trauma-informed pastoral care course. It was arguably the worst course I've ever been on, not because of anything. I just found it really difficult. I couldn't walk away with anything I didn't really feel like I walked away with anything from it, which is not to say the course is terrible and you shouldn't do it. I don't know. It just didn't resonate with me. The one thing that did happen there was I bumped into the ex-pastor of the church that we applied at. Now he was working at Morling. He was a lecturer there, and I got to say hi to him and you know, how are you going and what's happened, and he was really apologetic about it, all lovely and sweet and all the rest of it. And you're like, man, this is just another wound that you're opening. But we talked about it, where I was at, and still up for hour and sharing and praying about that. And then he goes, and he went, are you looking? And I was like, yeah, actually, we're in a conversation with the church at the moment. And so he was really excited for that. And then that was it. Left, walked away. About 3 days later, someone called David Guy gave me a call. And he said, hey, I was just chatting to Craig Corkill, who was the pastor. And he said, he said, you're looking for a church. Can I tell you a bit about Maitland Baptist? And we got talking. And we felt the peace of God in them. And the only way that David Guy would have known who I was if I talked with Craig Corkill, and if I'd applied at his church, and if he got to know me as a friend and a brother, and then had David Guy connected with him. And all of this is working in the background of me sitting there for 2 years, really questioning, God, am I hearing you? Am I wrong? And realizing that actually I was always supposed to apply for that, and I was never supposed to get it. And the point of my obedience wasn't that at the end of the day you'll be successful and great. It was actually, I need you to go and do this, and just do this, and then trust me. And I'm not going to stand here and say, man, now I never doubt God at all. All the time I sit there and wrestle with God, is that you or is that me? And I still will wrestle with that. I think it's a healthy wrestle to do. But within me, I know that even if things go all wrong, God can make good out of it. And maybe he intended them to go that way so that he could bring something even better out of them. Jesus teaches, I don't think I've got it. Yeah, I don't, sorry. Jesus, he does his teaching about the kernel of wheat. And he says, a kernel of wheat can only be one seed unless it dies and then falls to the ground. And only when it does that can there be seed abundantly. Sometimes something has to die for something else to be released. He was talking about himself. He had to go to the cross. He was one seed. But once he did that, the blessing could go to everyone. In the same way, it makes sense that in our ways and in our lives, there are things that need to die so that God can bring newness and new life and new ways and new ministries and new churches and new friends and brothers and sisters out of something. At the start of obedience, I think we only see the cost. It's been my experience. When God asked me to do it, I look at it and go, yes, I can see what there's going to, and I have this wrestle about, am I willing to pay that? The more that you are obedient and the further down the road you get, it's like you can see the fruit. Like after a time, when you see the opportunity, you can see the fruit that's going to come from it. Or you can imagine it, or you can experience, like you just hope in, wow, if I do this, then God is going to do something amazing out of that. You know, we sit and we think that God is, I really believe that God is trying to do something new with our congregation. We've talked about this moment of like a generational shift for us. And we don't even know what our church building is going to look like in a few years' time. Like we just don't know that. And it makes sense as God does something new in our building, he's going to want something to do something new in us too. And to do that, it might be that he comes to us and asks us to do something crazy, something that's going to cost us, something that we're going to sit there and go, I don't even see how you can bring something good out of this. And we're going to have this moment of, yes, but this could all go wrong. And God's going to say, yes, but obedience, I want you to be my friends. And you're my friends if you do what I command. And so we want to be a church that when the opportunity comes, we step out even if it doesn't make sense, right? I'll take your silence as an affirmed yes. Great, thank you. We've talked now for 8 weeks in this series. 8 weeks about the state of our hearts and God's plan to meet with us, to change us, to respond to us. We talked about the dangers of familiarity together. We talked about the world and how it's going to continually tempt us to compromise our values and our beliefs and the ways that we walk through this world. We've talked about listening before acting. We've looked at Pharaoh's heart and how cold and hard our hearts can get. And yet we've looked at the apostles' heart and how soft and open they were to what God was going to do in all of that. and they're just wonderful. They're great yes to the Holy Spirit, if you will, at Pentecost. We've looked at all of that, and at the end of the day, the question that God brings us is yes, but are you going to do it? A little while ago, I read a book, and it went, actually, the church doesn't need someone to sit and explain a whole bunch of theology to people. Like, actually, our Bible knowledge is increasing. We've got a greater sense of who the person of Jesus is. We know his story. Sure, maybe we can't get all the Old Testament lined up. We've got a vague idea. And at the end of the day, we can all sit there and go, oh, what are the two greatest commandments? Oh, I know what they are. It's to love the Lord my God with all my heart, soul, strength, and mind. And then to love others as I want to be loved too. And we can sit and we can name all that. And the question isn't, hey, do you not know that? The question is, do you do it? The great problem of the church now is not that we don't know what we're supposed to do, it's that we don't do it. And that's what lays before us. And so that's what we're going to do, is come to this table, and we're going to celebrate again the life of the man who did it, who went through it all, who looked at everything that stood in front of him and said, yes, God, whatever you want and wherever you go, I will do it, even if that is to death. And as we do that, I think it would be a really great question to ask God, God, what are you asking me to be obedient in? What have you asked me to do? I forget, like, sure, church and family and big and all the rest, but what are you asking me to do? Because at the end of the day, God is looking for an obedient church. And he's looking for those that he can call his friends. Yes? And I want to be his friend. I'm sure you do too. But we're going to need to pray about that, and we're going to need to encourage and get alongside each other. And that starts here, by reminding ourselves of the person who did it. And so Jez is going to come and lead us in some singing. I'm going to break bread. And come as you need to, whether that's, we all do it right at the start, and that's all fine. But if you want to do it like at the end of the set, that's fine. If you just want to sit and pray, that's fine. If you need to just do business with God, if you need to tap someone on the shoulder and says, you know what, God is speaking to me, and I just want you to lay your hand on me and pray for me, just do it. Like, that's okay. But before we do all that, let's just pray and ask the Holy Spirit to come into our hearts, shall we?